Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today we're putting on our strategic planning hats, looking ahead for the next few weeks. So imagine you're running a quick service restaurant, a QSR. For you, the weather isn't just, small talk.
Not at all. It's actually a make or break factor.
Yeah.
Daily operations, your budget, even safety, it all ties back.
Absolutely. Think about a sudden downpour flooding the drive-through or an unexpected heat wave just pushing your AC system to its absolute limit. Weather dictates so much. So this deep dive is all about giving you that forward look. We're focusing on the U.S. weather forecast, specifically tailored for the QSR industry.
Right, and we're covering the rest of September, heading into early October 2025.
Exactly. Our mission today is to unpack this essential weather digest from GWT2 Energy. They pull together complex data from big agencies like NOAA.
That's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Right, and the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center. We're going to pull out the critical insights, potential impacts from, say, hurricanes, tornadoes, and those really costly thermal extremes.
Yeah, the heat and cold.
Our goal here is just to cut through all the noise so you can quickly grasp what really matters for your operational planning and preparedness.
And what's really compelling, I think, is how these, meteorological probabilities, they sound abstract, right? But they translate directly into very concrete, very actionable challenges.
And opportunities, too, maybe, for planning.
Definitely opportunities for planning.
Yeah.
We're moving beyond just what the weather might be to why it matters for everything, really. Staff scheduling, energy bills, keeping food safe.
Okay, so let's map this out. To make sense of it all, we're breaking it down into three strategic windows.
Makes sense.
First, the immediate 7-day outlook. That takes us from September 16th to the 22nd. Then we'll stretch it out to a 14-day outlook, so September 16th through the 29th.
Okay.
And finally, the longer range 21-day view. That runs all the way from September 16th through October 6th. Think of it like your early warning system.
Yeah, these different time frames are really crucial. That 7-day forecast gives you high confidence details for immediate tactical stuff, things you can change today, tomorrow.
Right. Quick pivots.
Exactly. But the 14-day and the 21-day outlooks, those are invaluable for the bigger picture. Strategic risk assessments, budgeting, resource allocation, looking further down the road.
Got it. So let's dive into the first big area, tropical systems. Always a worry for coastal businesses.
Always this time of year.
So for the immediate 7-day window, what are we watching?
We're keeping an eye on a potential tropical depression forming, maybe midweek. Tropical depression is, the earliest stage where you start seeing organized circulation.
Okay, and the chances?
It's about a 50% chance it'll develop. And from that, maybe a 30% risk of affecting the U.S. coast with rain and wind.
And the report mentions potential for Gabrielle near Florida, Tampa specifically.
Yeah, Tampa's mentioned as an example for potential localized impacts if it develops that way. But, still some uncertainty there. On the slightly better side, Fernand looks like it'll stay offshore.
Okay, that's good news about Fernand. Now, stretching out to 14 days.
So the 14-day outlook shows an above-normal surge forecast for tropical storm activity, about a 40% chance of new storms forming.
And the landfall threat. That's the key operational concern.
Right. There's about a 25% landfall threat mentioned, particularly for the Gulf and East Coasts. Miami is highlighted as a potential impact zone. So definitely a heads up needed for operators in those areas.
And then the 21-day outlook, longer term.
The message there is pretty clear. This period is still peak season for tropical activity. The probability of some kind of impact for the Southeast and Gulf regions, think New Orleans, for example, climbs to a pretty significant 50–60%.
Wow, 50–60%. So this isn't just a fleeting concern. It's a sustained period of higher risk.
Exactly. And the impacts on restaurants, they're more complex than just bad weather.
Yeah. Right. It's not just rain.
No. Heavy rain, strong winds, they can really strain operations. Like your drive-thru lane floods, suddenly you have to shift everyone inside.
Which slows everything down, frustrates customers.
Hugely. Even if you stay open, it can seriously cut into your peak hour revenue.
Yeah.
Outdoor seating, obviously gone. Delivery services might get throttled back or just become unsafe.
Another revenue stream hit.
Yeah. And then you have to think about potential supply chain issues, staff safety, getting to and from work, customer safety. It ripples out.
Okay, so lots to consider with tropical systems. Let's shift inland, though. Tornado risks. What's the outlook there?
Well, the good news here, generally speaking, is that the overall trend is marginal or minimal risk across all the forecast periods.
Okay, why is that? Past the peak season, mostly.
Largely, yes. For the 7-day outlook, probabilities are pretty low. We're talking maybe 5–10% risk in the low plains and Midwest. Oklahoma City is mentioned as an example area.
And a 14-day.
Still minimal. Around 10% for scattered spots in the central U.S., like Dallas maybe.
Yeah.
And looking out to 21 days, it remains a low seasonal risk, maybe 10–15% chance of isolated events.
So widespread outbreaks are unlikely, but even an isolated event needs a plan.
Absolutely. Doesn't matter if the probability is low overall. If a warning is issued for your area, you need immediate action. Knowing where your safe zone is, having that clear communication plan for staff, that's crucial regardless.
Okay, so tornadoes are a lower probability localized risk, but you mentioned earlier thermal extremes. That sounds like the major player here.
It really is. This brings us to that fundamental challenge for QSRs. How do you manage these big swings, these often extreme temperatures, when your whole business model relies on consistency?
Let's break it down. Start with the heat risks. Above normal temperatures, what's the trend?
The general trend is a pretty broad lean towards above normal temps, and it actually intensifies over the forecast periods we're looking at. Well, about a 40% likelihood in the southeast in the first 7 days. That climbs to 60% overall likelihood in the 14-day outlook. And then it hits a pretty significant 70% likelihood in the 21-day period, across regions like the Northeast, actually.
Wow, 70% in the Northeast later on. What about specifics? Hot spots.
Yeah, some specifics are quite striking. In the Southeast, for that first 7-day period, we could see highs cracking 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Atlanta's given as an example.
And you mentioned anomalies.
Right. Temperature anomalies of plus 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That means temperatures way above what's normal for mid to late September. That really pushes your systems, your staff.
Way outside the usual comfort zone. Okay, and this is where it gets really critical for QSRs, right? The impacts.
Exactly. Looking at the 14-day outlook, you see highs potentially above 95 degrees Fahrenheit continuing in the south and west. Phoenix, for instance, has a 50% likelihood mention, with anomalies possibly up to plus 15 degrees Fahrenheit.
15 degrees above normal. That's intense.
It is. And looking further out, 14 to 21 days, that warmer tilt just persists, especially southwest, southern plains, west coast, central Great Basin, even the eastern seaboard. Probabilities running 60–70% for above normal conditions in many of those spots.
Okay, let's talk impacts. This isn't just it's hot out. What does this mean for a restaurant?
It means profound challenges. First, heightened risk of HVAC strain. Your air conditioning breaking down right when you need it most, that's a nightmare.
And the energy costs.
Huge concern. The forecast actually projects potential energy cost hikes of 15 to 25% during these periods.
15 to 25% just from AC.
Primarily, yeah. For a multi-unit operator, that could mean hundreds, maybe thousands of extra dollars per week across their locations. Hits the bottom line directly.
Ouch. What else?
Then there's severe worker fatigue.
Yeah.
Trying to work a busy line in that kind of heat, it's draining, can even be dangerous. Food storage is another big one. Refrigeration units struggle, internal temps creep up. That's a health code violation waiting to happen.
Spoilage risks.
Exactly. And you might even see peak hour slowdowns just because staff and equipment are physically struggling to keep up in the heat.
Okay, so heat is a major, major factor. But it's not the only story, right? You mentioned cold snaps, too.
That's right. It's easy to just focus on the heat, especially with those big numbers, but it's dynamic. Even within this generally warmer trend, there are specific pockets of cold weather that demand attention.
Where are we seeing those?
In the 7-day outlook, parts of the north could see lows dipping near or below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Chicago's mentioned with about a 20% chance. This emerging cold becomes a bit more defined in the 14-day outlook. Minneapolis, for example, potentially seeing lows under 40 degrees Fahrenheit with maybe a 30% likelihood.
And the Northeast. You mentioned heat there later, but cold first.
Exactly. Crucially, the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic are actually anticipated to see below normal temperatures in the initial 2 weeks. We're talking 50–60% probabilities for states like New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania.
Below normal by how much?
The anomaly estimates are pretty specific. New York and Pennsylvania could see temps maybe 4 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. Massachusetts maybe 3 to 5 degrees below. That's significant for planning in early fall.
Okay, so what are the impacts of these cold snaps? Different challenges, I assume.
Different set of concerns, yeah. Increased heating system demands, obviously. Potential vulnerabilities for pipes freezing or bursting, especially any exposed plumbing.
Yeah, outdoor spigots, maybe some equipment lines.
Exactly. And you might see minor disruptions to drive-through or any outdoor service just because customers prefer to be inside when it's suddenly chilly.
But you said these cold risks ease up later.
Generally, yes. The forecast suggests these specific cold risks tend to ease in that third week, with the broader lean towards warmth becoming more dominant nationwide. It really highlights how localized and time-sensitive some of these impacts can be.
Okay, that makes sense. It's not one size fits all.
Not at all. Which is a great lead-in to looking at some state-by-state operational risks. This is where we get really specific. We categorize risks low, moderate, high, very high, extreme, based on the chance and the size of these temperature anomalies, so you know where to really focus.
Right, let's get granular. Which states are really feeling the heat based on this forecast?
Well, California stands out. Across all 3 weeks, so right through to early October, it's facing very high to extreme heat risks.
The whole period, wow.
Yeah. Anomaly estimates are significant, like +5 to +9 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. For operators there, it means intense focus on HVAC systems preventing overload, budgeting for those energy spikes, rigorous hydration protocols for staff making sure they get shaded breaks, and constant food temp monitoring. Crucial.
Okay. California's a big one. Where else?
Arizona's another consistent hotspot. High to high heat risks for all 3 weeks. Looking at +4 but 8 degrees above normal there.
Similar impacts then. Equipment strain, food safety.
Yes. Plus maybe thinking about spoilage for things like dairy and produce if refrigeration struggles. And maybe even adjusting staffing for those really hot midday periods when foot traffic might dip.
Makes sense. Nevada.
Nevada also looking at high to very high heat, +5 to +8 degree anomalies. Desert heat amplification is a factor there. So ensuring really good ventilation inside stores is key, and just preparing systems for prolonged, intense warmth.
Okay, moving east a bit. Texas and Oklahoma.
They're looking at moderate heat risk across the 3 weeks. Anomalies around +3 to +6 degrees above normal.
So not quite as extreme, but still significant.
Exactly. Milder than the Southwest, but vigilance is still needed, especially in southern parts of those states. Watching utility costs, keeping tight controls on food safety as ambient temps rise.
Got it. Now let's flip to the cold side. You mentioned Massachusetts.
Right. For weeks 1 and 2, Massachusetts is highlighted with a high cold risk, expecting temperatures 3 to 5 degrees Fahrenheit below normal.
So what's the advice there?
Operational watch needed for sudden cold snaps, maybe insulating outdoor units, anything critical that's exposed. Interestingly, though, Massachusetts then transitions to a low heat risk in week 3. Shows that variability again.
Okay. And New York and Pennsylvania. Also cold risks initially?
Yes. Moderate cold risks for weeks 1 and 2. Anomalies potentially -3 to -6 degrees Fahrenheit below normal.
So anticipating higher heating demand.
Definitely. Checking pipes diligently for any early frost risks, budgeting for those heating energy costs, and like Massachusetts, New York sees a shift. It transitions to more near normal temperatures in week 3, so the initial cold concern eases off there too.
This is really specific. What about states not mentioned? Illinois, for example.
Good question. Generally, if a state wasn't specifically called out, like Illinois, it carries a low risk for these specific types of thermal extremes or the tropical events we discussed. It really emphasizes the targeted nature of this forecast, helps you direct your attention where it's needed most.
Okay, that's super helpful. So given this detailed forecast, what does this actually mean for you, the restaurant operator listening right now? It's about action, right?
Absolutely. Knowing the forecast is step 1. Acting on it is step 2. Let's talk practical recommendations. Starting with those heat risk areas.
Yeah.
California, Arizona, Nevada, the Southwest.
What should they be doing now?
Prioritizing HVAC tune-ups now. Having contingency cooling plans ready out. Maybe portable AC units for critical areas if the main system fails. That's not just smart, it's essential to prevent costly downtime.
And for staff.
Strict hydration protocols. Making sure water is easily accessible, encouraging breaks, providing shaded areas if possible. Preventing heat exhaustion keeps your team safe and productive.
Food safety checks.
Crucial. Twice daily checks of fridge and freezer temperatures. Minimum. Safeguards perishables, prevents health code issues. And financially, start forecasting those 15–25% energy hikes. Explore ways to shift energy use to off-peak hours if possible. Even small things can add up.
Okay. Excellent advice for the heat. Now, let's pivot to the cold risk areas. New York, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, in the Northeast for those first couple of weeks.
Right. Equally specific recommendations there.
Yep.
Applying insulation, maybe heat tape, to any vulnerable pipes or equipment, especially outdoors.
Preventative maintenance.
Exactly. Run heating system diagnostics now before you really need it to catch any issues. Prevent emergency repairs later.
What about menu or service adjustments?
Could be worth considering maybe stocking up on indoor-focused menu items if you expect patio traffic to dip, Or maybe marketing can lean into warm comfort food offerings during that cooler spell.
Good point. Anything else for the cold?
Yeah, keep an eye out for freeze-thaw cycles, especially if temps hover near freezing. That can affect walkways, creating slip hazards, or even impact foundations over time. Just being aware.
So it really comes down to proactive measures for both heat and cold. Saves money, saves headaches down the line.
Absolutely. Keeps your business running smoothly, whatever the weather throws at you.
This whole deep dive, it really shows how these like abstract weather probabilities, they really do translate into concrete operational challenges,
Very tangible impacts.
but also, as you said, opportunities for preparedness. If we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, it just highlights how important dynamic, data-driven planning is becoming, right? Especially with a changing climate, it gives you an edge.
It really does. And that brings up, I think, an important question for everyone listening. Considering these insights we've discussed,
Yeah.
what steps might you take this week? Not just to react to the immediate forecast, but maybe to start building a more resilient, more adaptable operation for the long term.
That's a really powerful thought to end on, something to definitely chew on. We absolutely encourage you to stay tuned to those real-time NOAA updates. Check your GWT2 Energy Digest for the latest.
Keep informed?
Exactly. And think about how these insights apply to your specific situation, your specific restaurants. Thanks so much for joining us for another deep dive.